Hawkeye. Episode 1, Never Meet Your Heroes. Open on New York in 2012. A young Kate Bishop is listening in on her parents arguing about moving. Kate's father talks with her before she sits for breakfast with her mother. As Kate is getting ready for school, the Chitauri invasion begins. Kate cannot find her parents in the entire house. She runs through it as it is being destroyed in the Battle of New York. Kate is saved from a Chitauri soldier by Hawkeye. She watches as he swings away before she is picked up by her mother. Her father is killed as the house collapses. Kate's mother comforts her and reminds her that the Chitauri will not return to Earth because the Avengers will stop them. Kate says she wants a bow and arrow. Title sequence. Present-day New York. Post-blip. An adult Kate Bishop scales a building with her equipment as part of a bet with her friend Greer. She looses an arrow with a tennis ball attached to it, and manages to ring the bell of a tower in a nearby building. As the bell breaks its brick enclosure, destroying the tower, Kate is caught by security. While her friends get away, Clint Barton watches a musical about the Avengers with his daughter, who reminds him to turn on his hearing aid. He is recognized by a child in the audience. When Clint goes to use the restroom, he notices the words "Thanos was right" written on the urinal. A self-indulgent fan tries to get a selfie with the hero, but he steps out of the theater for some air. The rest of his family comes out to him. Kate returns to her home where she lives with Eleanor, her mom. Eleanor is preparing for a charity auction and reminds Kate of the tower and her responsibility to it. Kate notices a sword and asks about it. Eleanor's lover Jack appears to take her to the auction. Clint is having dinner with his 3 children, and their mother calls in from home. Clint tells them about all the Christmas stuff there is to do in New York. At that point, a server tells the family that the meal is on the house as thanks for the avenging. At the hotel, Kate is approached by a man named Armand Duquesne who informs her of Eleanor and Jack's marriage. He suggests she speak to her mother. Kate approaches Eleanor, who apologizes for the way she found out, but asks that she at least be happy for her. Kate walks around and hears an argument between Armand and Eleanor. Eleanor scolds Kate for eavesdropping, but Kate is curious as to Armand's intentions. She follows him into the back rooms and kitchen. Jack gets up from the table to excuse himself. Kate acts as a waiter to bring food down to a selection of guests in the wine cellar. Armand tells Jack about his displeasure with Eleanor. Jack suggests he back off. Meanwhile, the black market auction begins. Kate is found out and hides. A retractable sword of the Ronin is auctioned and Jack faces off with Armand in a bidding war. Armand wins the auction as the auction is interrupted. In the chaos, Jack steals the sword. A team comes in led by someone who instructs them to find the watch. Kate steals and dons the cowl and companion suit of the Ronin, intended to go with the sword. She confronts the thugs and takes him on, beating them one by one. Jack meets with Eleanor outside. Kate gets out and runs away as the police arrive. Clint and family arrive back at their hotel. They see the Astoria on the Ronin, which Clint immediately recognizes as his alter ego during the blip. Kate breaks into a home where she notices a bowl of monogrammed butterscotch and a dead Armand Duquesne, killed with the sword of the Ronin. The maid arrives to the horrific scene as Kate flees. She is surrounded by the thugs, but even then she can hold her own. She manages to get into their van before Clint arrives to take back his suit. Kate immediately recognizes him. Episode 2, Hide and Seek. Kate introduces herself to Clint. He asks how she got the suit. She and Clint walk to the nearby restaurant Kate inherited where she is housing the dog. Clint asks for his suit back so he can get going. Clint identifies the gang as the Tracksuit Mafia. Kate identifies Armand as Jack's uncle. Clint warns Kate not to tell anybody about the Ronin suit because the tracksuits would track her. Right then they are attacked by the tracksuits, who throw Molotov cocktails into the building. Kate turns on the sprinklers as the rest of the neighborhood wakes up. She and Clint run out and lay low. They stop in a store to pick up supplies. Kate offers Clint to stay at her aunt's place. Clint tells her that he is going back to her apartment to get the suit. Clint borrows a fire department coat and helmet to go looking for the Ronin suit. He cannot find it, but noticed a sticker in the firetruck window for NYC LARPers, i.e. a group that might steal the Ronin suit to use for LARPing. Kate speaks to her mom as Clint arrives. He helps her fix her wound and updates her on the suit. The next morning, Clint sends his kids off to the airport to fly back to their mother. He promises to be home for Christmas. Clint and Kate walk through Manhattan. And Kate talks to Clint about the branding of Hawkeye. He has her put her number into a burner phone to be used for emergencies only. He tells her that if all goes as planned, he will never see her again. Kate meets with Eleanor and Jack, and the three have a tense interaction. Clint approaches the NYC LARPers and attempts to approach the guy in the Ronin suit, but is encouraged to sign up. Clint makes his way through the crowd, pretending to kill several LARPers as he gets to the Ronin. He offers to kill the Ronin for the suit, but the Ronin counters by having a trial by combat. Clint allows himself to be killed. He gets the suit back. Kate gets a call from a detective who asks about the fire in her apartment, but she agrees to tell him the next morning. Clint loses the LARP duel and thanks the fireman, Grills, for the Ronin suit back. He speaks to his wife as the kids return home. Clint is reminded he has 5 days to be home by Christmas. Kate confronts Jack on the sword collection and challenges him to a fencing match. Kate attempts to stab Jack while his mask is off, and Eleanor scolds her. Kate tries to tell Eleanor about the gang and the underground auction, but Eleanor tries to convince her that the best choice for her is to graduate from college and begin working for the company as planned. Jack interrupts and offers the same monogram butterscotch Kate found in Armand's apartment. Kate abruptly leaves, now realizing that Jack killed Armand. Clint allows himself to be captured by the tracksuits, who say that their leader will want to see him alive. Kate tries to call the burner phone, but inadvertently finds out about the kidnapping. She tracks the signal of his phone and tells the driver of the cab to speed up. Kate breaks in on the tracksuits as they are interrogating Clint. The two are taken prisoner as the leader is informed that they have both been caught. Episode 3, Echoes. Open in a classroom. 2007. A young deaf girl sits in a classroom and reads her teacher's lips as the instructions are given. Aha writes in a book, until the teacher interrupts her. She cannot make out all of the words, but her work is noticed, and the teacher smiles at her. She has a sign language conversation with her father at home. She asks him why he won't pay for her to go to a school for deaf children, and he assures her that her current education would be best she practices martial arts with her father and trains with her uncle. Maya also has a prosthetic right leg. Her opponent attempts to use that to his advantage, but she maneuvers out of the way and takes him down. Flash forward to just before the end of the last episode. Maya spars with her partner and maintains her agility. She goes to the facility where Clint and Kate are fighting the thugs. She finds her father mortally wounded. And he dies in her arms. Present moment. Clint and Kate are restrained to automated rocking horses while awaiting an audience with Maya, the leader of the gang. They discuss their situation and how Clint's plan was ruined by Kate's interference. Kate helps one of the thugs write an apology letter to his girlfriend. But the captain tells her to be quiet. Maya arrives and removes Clint's restraints so she can speak to him in sign. But Clint is limited. So she has Kazi, her interpreter, restrain him. This time with his hands behind his back. She tells him he would be better off without the hearing aid. Clint tells Maya that Kate is not the Ronin. He tells her that the Black Widow killed the Ronin and that he witnessed it. Maya attacks Kate. But Kate tells her the truth in that she only put on the outfit to stay unseen at the auction and had no idea what it meant. Clint manages to break free of the duct tape and distracts the thugs who all chase after him. Maya kicks Clint, knocking out his hearing aid, which she crushes. Clint gets his equipment as Maya engages him. Clint loses 2 arrows to nail her to the wall. And another to free Kate. Kate fights Kazi while Clint fights the rest of the gang. They finally take out the last few, including Kazi. Clint hotwires a car and drives away in a 360-style single-take where he and Kate escape. Kate uses Clint's equipment to take out the cars as Clint drives with very limited hearing. Clint hands her specific arrows to be used to cut off the thugs. But Maya stays on them. Kate releases a gas arrow into Maya's car, causing her to crash it. Clint launches a PIM arrow at a regular arrow that Kate loses, causing it to become gigantic. The two narrowly escape Maya and the rest by jumping off the side of a bridge and swinging on a grapple arrow cable to the top of a subway car. The two find their way into the train. Clint compliments Kate on her archery skills, not hearing her say that they should walk the dog previously taken in, which he unintentionally repeats. In Kate's apartment, Clint ices his neck while coping with not having his hearing aid. Kate helps him to talk to his son on the phone. At the abandoned KB Toys warehouse, Maya and Kazi discuss the morning's events. Kazi disagrees with Maya's style and reminds her that her father put the crew first. Maya reminds him that she is in charge, and he tells her to look into Clint Barton. Clint and Kate go to get his hearing aids fixed. Kate tells Clint about how she always wanted to become a hero, and Clint warns her of the dangers that come with it. Kate suggests a more recognizable costume and draws up a crayon piece of the traditional comic book, Hawkeye. Clint tells Kate that he can't wear that costume because he doesn't see himself as a role model in any part of his life. Clint and Kate discuss their situation further and agree they are in it together. They walk the dog through Central Park and talk about Maya. Clint asks Kate if the tracksuit thugs were looking for anything else at the auction. She tells him that she was focused on exposing her stepfather to be. They arrive back to Kate's home, where she looks up Kazi on a Bishop Securities computer while Clint looks around. He encounters Jack as the episode ends. Episode 4, Partners. Am I right? Jack confronts Clint as Kate and Eleanor enter. Jack immediately withdraws and welcomes Clint in to talk. Kate tells her mother that she is working with Hawkeye on a case. Clint promises to keep her safe. Clint has his wife look up Sloan Limited, and she finds out that it is a front business for the tracksuit mafia, and Jack is their CEO. She also asks him about the Rolex watch that was at the auction along with the Ronin outfit. Clint agrees that it's worth looking into. Kate sits with Eleanor and Jack. Uncomfortable with their relationship, she brings a pizza to Clint. He tells her all about the tracksuits and Jack. She makes an effort to make a plan with him. He teaches her how to snap a coin. Clint tells Kate about his assignment to take out Natasha Romanoff and his decision not to kill her. They are watching It's a Wonderful Life, and Kate recalls that Clint lost his family during the blip. She asks if that's where he met the Ronin, and then deduces that he is the Ronin. Clint describes his work as the Ronin as no different than when he was Hawkeye. He sees his training and superhero persona as making him nothing more than a weapon to be aimed by the right people. The Ronin is tied to Clint, and now his family since they are back from the blip. That is why he came back, to end the Ronin. He thanks her for coming over and suggests she get some rest as Clint goes to sleep. He recalls memories from his family disappearing to Natasha's death. The next morning, Clint assigns Kate to get back the trick arrows while he speaks to Kazi. While walking the dog, Kate asks a cop from the LARPing group for help, and they enlist her participation in exchange. Clint speaks to Kazi. He warns Kazi of Maya's obsession with finding the Ronin. Clint returns to find the group cleaning the apartment. Kate agrees to help the group with costume materials in exchange for the trick arrows being returned. Clint gets a text from his wife that the Rolex was not destroyed at the Avengers compound and was transmitting an address. Clint immediately gets up to leave but has his arrows abruptly returned to him with a bag he needs to keep safe. Kate leaves to go with him. While scoping out the location, Clint explains how to strategize the infiltration to Kate, but she goes her own way. Clint decides to walk Kate through scaling the building. Instead, Kate helps a resident in with his bags. She goes to the apartment and uses the key to get in. She looks around for the Rolex. As she finds the watch, she notices a notepad with information on Clint and his family. As Clint directs Kate to leave, he is attacked by a masked assailant while Maya confronts Kate in the apartment. Kate goes back to help Clint but Maya follows. The assailant who attacked Clint was Yelena Belova, sister of Natasha Romanoff and trained Black Widow assassin. Clint tells Kate that she needs to stay out of this. Episode 5, Ronin, begins in 2018 with Yelena and Natasha discussing the cure for the Black Widow programming. Yelena and another widow approach Anna, a former widow. Though Yelena gives her the antidote, it is revealed that she was never brainwashed. Anna reveals that she uses her training to make a career as an assassin. While they discuss reuniting Yelena with Natasha, Yelena excuses herself to wash up. While she is in the bathroom, the blip happens. Yelena returns 5 years later, but only 5 seconds have passed from her perspective. She sees that Anna has married and adopted a child. Anna tells her about what happened, including Natasha's death. Kate arrives home and is greeted by Eleanor. Kate tells her mother about Jack's involvement with the tracksuits. She agrees to look into it. Kazi tends to Maya's wounds while she continues to plot the Ronin's murder with him. He warns her that the Ronin's death must be the last when Kate arrives back at her apartment. She finds that Yelena has broken in and made her dinner. She invites Kate to sit so they can speak. Clint visits Grills from the LARP Guild. Yelena talks to Kate about who she is and tells her that she is there to kill Clint. Kate asks if she was hired. Yelena doesn't answer but asks his location. Kate honestly responds that she doesn't know. Before leaving, Yelena warns Kate not to get in her way again. Clint talks to Grills, who tells him that the new outfits have arrived. Kate arrives home to find Jack being taken in by authorities. Eleanor in silence. Clint visits the site of the first Avengers Assembly in New York. He flips up his hood and walks away after a talk with Natasha. Kate calls Clint to talk about Yelena but fills his voicemail box. A tracksuit delivery is ambushed by an arrow calling for Maya to meet where she first met the Ronin. Clint speaks to his wife and updates her on Maya and the Black Widow. Clint says that if he can't end this tonight, then, the big guy, will likely get involved. Maya waits at a used car lot, where the Ronin ambushes Kazi and the tracksuits. Maya fights the Ronin alone and loses. Clint reveals his identity to her and threatens her to never come after him or his family. Clint tells Maya that he was tipped off by an informant to kill her father. The informant worked for her boss. As Maya attempts to kill Clint, she is stopped by Kate. Kazi catches up with Maya. She asks him why he wasn't at the meeting with their boss the night her father was killed. He doesn't have an answer. And she leaves. As Kate and Clint leave in a cab, Kate tells Clint that she found out the assassin was Natasha's sister. Clint knows Yelena's name. Eleanor is followed by Yelena to a building. Back at Grill's apartment, Kate receives texts from Yelena that she was hired by Eleanor Bishop. Yelena includes a picture of Eleanor meeting with her boss, the Kingpin. Episode 6, So This Is Christmas? Wilson Fisk meets with Eleanor. Eleanor tells Fisk that she took care of Armand, and continues to blackmail Fisk, telling him that she is leaving in order to protect Kate. Yelena records and sends the entire conversation to Kate. Kate realizes that her mother is the one who killed Armand and begins to freak out. But Clint promises to stay by her side until this is finished. Maya meets with Wilson. Kazi is there and makes her nervous as she tries to discuss her father's death with her uncle. She asks for some time off to clear her head, which Wilson reluctantly gives her. Then he discusses with Kazi that the people need to be reminded that the city belongs to him. Clint and Kate build trick arrows in a workshop. Clint tells Kate that the operation won't be easy. Kate tells Clint how he inspired her to be a hero in spite of her mortality. Kazi checks in with his tracksuit thugs as Clint and Kate enter Rockefeller Center. Their friends from the LARP Guild are working the event as waitstaff. Jack is also there. Yelena arrives, followed by Eleanor. Kate confronts Eleanor, who is interrupted by Jack. Kazi takes a shot at Clint and begins shooting up the venue. Clint goes downstairs to change into his new outfit while Kate tries to stop Yelena from ambushing him. Meanwhile, the venue is evacuated, but Eleanor is nowhere to be seen. Clint is able to launch a gas arrow into the room where Kazi was shooting from. Kate stops Yelena from killing Clint as the tracksuits arrive. Kate is ambushed by them but saved by Jack, who is also looking for Eleanor. Clint fights with Kazi and knocks him out, but the rest of the tracksuits arrive and chase him out the window. Luckily, his fall is broken by the Rockefeller tree. Kate ambushes some suits on the street from the piano at FAO Schwartz. She uses an arrow to knock down the tree, landing Clint in the skating rink. The two manage to take out an onslaught of tracksuits. Grills tells Kate that he has eyes on Eleanor. As Kazi attempts to kill Clint, he is stopped by Yelena and later confronted by Maya. Yelena asks Clint about Natasha but doesn't believe his answer. Eleanor is approached by Kingpin, but is shot in the chest with an arrow by Kate. And then Eleanor hits him with the car. Kazi tries to explain to Maya that he cannot leave the criminal life, and she stabs him. Fisk fights Kate inside of FAO, which Yelena and Clint fight in the rink. Kate takes out Wilson using several trick arrows before confronting her mother. Eleanor tries to explain her reasoning to Kate for why she stayed involved with the Kingpin. Before being picked up by the police, Clint stops Yelena from killing him by telling her things Natasha had said about her. Yelena realizes that Clint did not kill her sister. Fisk is picked up by Maya, who greets him with a handgun. The camera pulls away as a gunshot is heard. Clint talks to Kate about her actions that evening, and the two agree they should walk the dog. On Christmas Day, Clint arrives home to be with his family. He brings along Kate and the dog, who they name Lucky. Clint returns the Shield Rolex to his wife. In the back, he and Kate ceremoniously burn the Ronin outfit on the grill. Kate asks Clint about a superhero name, and Clint tells her he has an idea. Mid-credits reveal the opening number for Rogers the Musical.